My neighbor Higgins looked at me in the garage while I was holding a beer at 11 a.m. and said, Dan, that money wasn't taken from a bank. It was taken out of the last years of your life. $35,000 from my retirement just evaporated. I worked 28 years of overtime to retire at 60. That morning, I found out who did it. I pull out my reading glasses, open the printed statement from my 401k, check the app again, and almost spit coffee all over myself. Exactly $35,000 is missing. 35 grand. Gone. I'm 54 years old. I've worked 28 years at a distribution warehouse, put up with overtime, busted forklifts, aching knees, and young managers explaining to me how to do a job I was doing before they learned how to shave. And all those years, I saved every dollar I could because I had one simple plan. At 60, I'm done. I'm buying myself a decent fishing boat, sitting on a lake with a rod in my hand, and nobody is ever saying the words mandatory overtime to me again. And now somebody just took $35,000 out of that plan. First thought, hackers. Some guys from China hacked the system. Second thought, the bank screwed something up. Because what else am I supposed to think? Money doesn't just get up in the middle of the night, put on shoes, and walk out of your retirement account. I close the app, open it again. Same thing. Log into the website, same thing. Check the paper statement, same damn thing. Minus $35,000. I call my supervisor and tell him, Mike, I'm going to be late. He goes, everything okay? I say, $35,000 disappeared from my retirement account, so no, Mike. Everything is definitely not okay. He gets quiet for a second and says, yeah, go handle that. I throw the statement on the passenger seat, start the Explorer, and head home because all my account paperwork is there. I'm already thinking bank hotline, retirement company, police, passwords, freeze the account, the whole circus. And you know, what I always liked about our suburb in Naperville, everything looks safe, almost stupidly safe. 90s house, 2-car driveway, neighbors walking golden retrievers in the morning and waving at you. Nice lawn that I personally cut every Saturday. The kind of neighborhood where the biggest emergency is Higgins next door getting pissed because somebody's dog took a dump near his mailbox. So I'm driving home thinking, come on, people don't get robbed like this here. Yeah, that thought aged beautifully. I pull into my driveway and everything looks normal. Karen's flowers are sitting by the front door. Sprinklers are running 2 houses down. Some guy across the street is dragging his trash cans into the garage. Just another boring Tuesday morning. And I still had no idea that the person who took my money had already been sitting at my kitchen table for 2 days. I walk inside. Quiet. Smells like that lavender air freshener Karen buys. Good coffee and fresh pancakes. Karen, my wife, is sitting by the kitchen island in her silk robe, scrolling Facebook and sipping green tea. Just a cozy little American picture. 20 years of marriage, guys. 20 years. She looks at me and goes, what are you doing home? I don't even take my jacket off. I walk over, pull out the 401k statement, throw it on the granite counter and say, Karen, call the bank or call the police. Somebody stole $35,000 from my retirement account. And this is where things got strange. She doesn't jump up, doesn't grab the statement, doesn't say, what? Nothing. She slowly puts her phone down, looks at the counter. Then tears start coming out of her eyes. Quietly, no panic, no screaming, just tears. I'm standing there thinking, why the hell is she crying already? I haven't even called anybody yet. I say, Karen? She wipes her face and goes, Daniel, please don't yell. Oh, great. There are certain sentences you hear in marriage and immediately know your day is about to go straight into the toilet. Please don't yell is definitely one of them. I pull out the chair and sit down. Why would I yell? What happened? She keeps staring at her tea and says, "It wasn't hackers." I look at her. Okay. Then the bank messed up? She shakes her head. No. Now my stomach starts getting tight. Then what happened? She finally looks at me and says, "Daniel, it was me." I just stare at her. Seriously, I think my brain stopped working for about 5 seconds. "What do you mean it was you?" She says. "I took it." I point at the statement. "You took $35,000 out of my 401k." She nods. I actually laughed. Not because anything was funny. It was that stupid little laugh you make when somebody tells you something so ridiculous, your brain refuses to accept it. "How the hell did you even get into my account?" Well, apparently, my dear wife had been busy. She knew my social security number. She found the safe in the garage where I keep passwords and documents. She went into my office while I was at work, got into my retirement account, used my information, and arranged a favorable loan against my 401k, $35,000. My money, my retirement, without asking me a damn thing. I'm sitting there, looking at this woman I've been married to for 20 years, and I'm not even angry yet. I'm just numb, because what are you supposed to say? "Honey, next time you secretly borrow 35 grand against my retirement, leave a note on the fridge?" I rub my forehead and ask, "Okay, where's the money?" Karen starts crying harder. "Daniel, you need to understand." I say, "No, Karen, I don't need to understand anything yet. I need to know where my $35,000 went," she says. "I didn't have a choice." I look around the kitchen. Roof looks fine. Nobody's in the hospital. Her car is still in the driveway. So I ask again, "Where did the money go?" She takes a breath and says, "Tyler." Of course it was Tyler, her 26-year-old son from her first marriage. The guy changes jobs more often than I change the oil in my Explorer. Lives in a crappy rental apartment in downtown Chicago. Wears designer hoodies he can't afford, and calls himself an investor. You know the type. Has $300 in his checking account, and somehow wants to explain the economy to everybody at Thanksgiving. I look at Karen and go, "What did Tyler need $35,000 for?" She doesn't answer right away. That's when I knew this wasn't a car problem, wasn't rent, wasn't medical bills. Finally she says, "He got into some trouble." "What kind of trouble?" She looks down. "Sports betting." And I swear, guys, that was the moment my Tuesday morning went from bad to completely stupid. Sports betting. That's where my $35,000 went. Not a new roof, not medical treatment, not even a new car. Tyler had managed to burn through enough money on DraftKings and FanDuel that he was now in serious debt. Karen starts explaining it to me like she's giving me the weather forecast. Apparently it started small. $20 on baseball, 50 on football. Then parlays, live bets, whatever the hell else those apps have. I don't know. I buy a scratch-off ticket maybe twice a year when the jackpot gets stupid. That's the full extent of my gambling career. Tyler, apparently, had turned losing money into a full-time profession. And because he's Tyler, he didn't stop when his own money disappeared. Credit cards, personal loans, borrowing from friends. Then he started borrowing from some questionable guys who, according to Karen, had already threatened to come to his apartment and hurt him. She actually whispered that last part like we were in a mob movie. I look at her and say, "So let me understand this. Your 26-year-old son gambled himself into a hole, borrowed money from God knows who, and your solution was to steal $35,000 from my retirement?" She immediately goes, "I didn't steal it." "Oh, okay, great. That makes everything better." I point at the statement. "Karen, did I give you permission?" "No, but..." "Did you ask me?" "Daniel, Listen, did I even know about it? She starts crying again. No. I spread my hands. Then what would you call it? She says, I was trying to save my son. Save him. That word almost made me laugh again. Tyler wasn't 12 years old. He wasn't lying in a hospital bed. He was a 26-year-old grown man who liked sitting on his couch tapping buttons on FanDuel while wearing a hoodie that probably cost more than my work boots. And here's the part that really started boiling my blood. For the last 6 months, everything had gotten more expensive. Eggs, gas, utilities, groceries. Every time I went to the store, I felt like somebody had quietly added $20 to the bill just for walking through the door. So what did I do? I took overtime. Saturday mornings, 5 o'clock, while normal guys my age were sleeping, I was putting on work boots and driving to the warehouse. 10-hour shifts, sometimes 12, moving boxes, checking pallets, dealing with drivers, climbing in and out of trailers. I'd come home with my back humming so badly, I'd stand beside the grill and need a minute before I could straighten up. And Karen knew that. Hell, she'd bring me a glass of wine sometimes, rub my shoulders and say, "You work too hard, Daniel." Or, "You're such a hard worker. We'll get through this. We'll get through this." Guys, she was watching me work overtime to replace money she had already dumped into her son's gambling mess. That's when I stopped feeling confused. Now I was pissed. I stood up and started walking around the kitchen because sitting there was making me crazy. "How long ago did you do this?" She says, 2 days. 2 days. For 2 days, she had made pancakes, drank tea, asked how my shift went, slept beside me, and never thought maybe she should mention the small detail that she'd taken 35 grand against my retirement account. I say, "Karen, do you understand what you did? I'm 54. $35,000 plus interest isn't just money, that's time. That could be 3 more years of work. I plan to retire at 60. Now maybe I'm working until 63 because Tyler can't stop betting on football." She looks at me with those wet eyes and says, "What was I supposed to do? He's my son. He's my own blood." There it was, the sentence of the day. Your own blood? Yes, Daniel. What would you have done? Let them hurt him? I say, I would have made him sell his car. I would have made him get a second job. I would have made him call every person he owed money to and figure out a payment plan. You know what I wouldn't have done? Secretly, take $35,000 from somebody else. She shakes her head. You're talking about money like it's more important than my child. Your child is 26. He's still my son. And I'm still your husband. She didn't have much to say to that one. Then she hits me with, "You're the man, Daniel. I thought you'd understand." Oh, I understood. Apparently, being the man meant I got to destroy my back at 54, so Tyler could keep his dignity at 26. Nice arrangement. Very convenient for everybody, except the idiot wearing steel-toe boots at 5 in the morning. I could feel my face getting hot, and I knew if I stayed in that kitchen another 5 minutes, I was going to say something I couldn't take back. So I grabbed my keys, walked into the garage, shut the door behind me, and sat on this old wooden box beside my workbench. I opened the garage fridge, pulled out a Miller Lite, cracked it open, and just sat there staring at my lawnmower. About 10 minutes later, the side gate opens and Higgins walks in. Higgins is my neighbor, 60 years old, retired firefighter, built like an old refrigerator, and the kind of guy who can tell something's wrong with you before your own wife notices. He looks at me sitting there drinking beer before noon and goes, "Jesus, Dan, mortgage go up again?" I say, "Worse." He walks over to the garage fridge, grabs himself a beer without asking, because Higgins hasn't asked permission to take beer from my fridge in probably 12 years, sits beside me and says, "All right, let's hear it." So I tell him everything. The 401k, the $35,000, Karen, Tyler, DraftKings, FanDuel, the gambling debt, all of it. Higgins doesn't interrupt once. He just drinks his beer and looks at the concrete floor. When I finish, he sits there for a few seconds, spits off to the side near the driveway and says, "Dan, she didn't take that money from a bank." I look at him. "What?" He points his beer at me. "She took it out of the last years of your life." That shut me up. Then Higgins takes another drink and says, "And if you swallow this now, next year, Tyler's going to gamble away her house." I sat there looking at him, and for the first time all morning, my head got completely clear. "Yeah," I said. "You know what? Get comfortable." Higgins looks at me. "Why?" "Because tomorrow, I'm inviting Tyler over." And this time, the kid was going to explain the $35,000 to my face. The next day, I made Karen call Tyler and tell him to come over. Not ask him. Tell him. Of course, she spent the whole morning walking around the house looking like I was preparing to interrogate a prisoner of war. "Daniel, please don't attack him when he gets here." I'm standing at the kitchen counter drinking coffee and I go, "Attack him? Karen, I'm asking a 26-year-old man where my $35,000 went." She says, "He's under a lot of pressure right now." Yeah, so was I, except my pressure came from working overtime and having 35 grand disappear from my retirement. His pressure came from betting money he didn't have on football games. Slight difference. Around 11, I hear a car pull into the driveway. I look through the window, and there's Tyler's used BMW 3 Series. That almost made me laugh. The guy apparently needed emergency money badly enough to raid my retirement, but not badly enough to sell the BMW. He walks into the kitchen wearing AirPods and one of those designer hoodies he likes, completely relaxed. "Hey, Mom." Then he sees me. "Hey, Uncle Dan." Uncle Dan. He'd been calling me that since he was a teenager. Normally, I didn't care. That morning, it annoyed me, just hearing it. I point at the chair. "Sit down." He takes one AirPod out. "What's going on?" I put the 401k papers on the table. Then I put a simple written agreement beside them. "Your mother gave you $35,000 that she took from my retirement account without my permission. You're paying it back." Tyler looks at Karen. Karen looks at me. Nobody wants to look at the paper. I tap it with my finger. $600 a month. You sign this, you get a real job, and you start paying me back. Or I go to the police and report fraud and identity theft. You should have seen Karen's face. "Daniel!" She practically jumps out of the chair. "Are you insane? You're threatening to put my son in jail." I say, "No. I'm giving your son a chance to pay back money that wasn't his." Tyler leans back in the chair and gives me this little irritated look. Not scared, not ashamed, irritated, like I was bothering him during lunch. Then he goes, "Uncle Dan, cash is kind of tight right now. Can't you just wait? Like family-wise?" Family-wise. Guys, I nearly swallowed my tongue. I say, "Family-wise? You took $35,000 from me." He immediately goes, "I didn't take it. Mom gave it to me." There it was. Tyler's entire philosophy of life in 8 words. If somebody else commits the dirty part for you, apparently your hands stay clean. I ask him, "How much money do you owe right now?" He shrugs. "It's complicated." "How much?" "I don't know exactly." "You don't know how much money you owe?" He starts messing with the AirPod in his hand. "There are different accounts." I look at Karen. "You gave $35,000 to a guy who doesn't even know how much he owes?" She says, "He was panicking." Tyler cuts in, "I had a bad run, okay? It happens." A bad run, like he slipped on ice. I say, "Then sell the BMW." His head snaps up immediately. "What?" "Sell the BMW. Get something for 5 grand. Put the difference toward what you owe me." He actually laughs. "Dude, I need a car." "Buy a cheaper car." "That doesn't make sense." Neither does gambling $35,000 you don't have. But here we are. Karen starts defending him again. Daniel, he needs transportation for interviews. I look at Tyler. How many interviews do you have this week? Silence. One. Silence. Any? He looks at his phone. I nod. That's what I thought. Then I push the agreement toward him again. 600 a month. Tyler doesn't touch it. I can't do 600. Then get another job. I'm looking. Amazon delivery is hiring. He rolls his eyes. That's not really what I'm trying to do. Of course not. Apparently, delivering packages was beneath the dignity of a man whose mother had just raided somebody else's retirement account to save him. After another 10 minutes of this nonsense, Tyler gets up and says he needs time to think. I tell him, "You've got 4 days." Karen starts yelling again, but I'm done. Tyler puts his AirPods back in, walks out, gets into the BMW, and drives away. I didn't trust either one of them anymore, so that afternoon, I took the paperwork and went straight to my financial advisor in downtown Naperville. I've known the guy for years. He looks through everything, then takes his glasses off and goes, "Daniel, we have a serious problem," I say. "Yeah, I noticed the missing 35 grand. He shakes his head. It's structured as a 401k loan. That means you avoid the immediate tax penalty, but repayment comes directly out of your paycheck. I ask, "How much?" He points at the numbers. "About $600 a month plus interest." I just stare at him. "So she steals $35,000 and my paycheck pays it back?" He gives me that financial advisor face where they're trying not to say, "Yes, you're screwed." Essentially, yes. Then he explains the rest. If the loan isn't properly repaid within the required period, the outstanding amount can be treated as taxable income. And then I've got another problem with the IRS. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Tyler gets his gambling debt cleaned up. Karen gets to feel like Mother of the Year. And I get $600 disappearing from my paycheck every month. I rub my face and say, "Can she legally do this?" He looks at the documents again. "Daniel, if she accessed the account and authorized this using your identity, without your consent, you need legal advice. This may be financial fraud." That sentence changed something for me. Until then, part of my brain was still treating this like some horrible family argument. Husband and wife. Kid screwed up. Everybody yells, eventually somebody apologizes. Life goes on. But hearing a professional say, "financial fraud," made it very simple. I drove home without turning the radio on. No anger anymore, no yelling. I was done yelling. By the time I pulled into the driveway, I knew exactly what I was going to do. Karen was upstairs in the bedroom. I walked in carrying 3 things and laid them on the bed in front of her. A separation agreement, Tyler's repayment agreement, and the contact information for a realtor who could sell our house. Karen looks at them, then at me. "What is this?" I say. "Your choices." She goes pale. Tyler signs the agreement, sells the BMW, and starts paying $600 a month. You get a part-time job at Target and help me cover whatever he can't. Or we sell this house, divide everything, and you can keep saving your son with your own money. She just stares at me. Then I add, "But you're not doing it with mine anymore." I thought Karen would look at those 3 papers and finally understand that I wasn't screwing around. Nope. She looked at me like I had just walked into the bedroom and announced I was selling the house to buy a llama farm. "You're serious," I say. "Very." She picks up the separation agreement, reads maybe 3 lines, throws it back on the bed, and goes, "You're destroying 20 years of marriage over money." There it was again. Over money. I say, "Karen, if I secretly took $35,000 out of your retirement account and gave it to somebody without telling you, would you call that money?" She crosses her arms. "That's different. Of course it is. Everything is different when you're the person doing it. I point at Tyler's agreement. 4 days, he signs that, sells the BMW, and starts paying me back. You get a job and help with the payments. That's my offer. She says, I'm not making my son sell his car. I shrug. Then I guess you picked option two. Oh, guys, that evening, the family circus opened for business. First call came from Karen's sister Alice in Ohio. I'm sitting on the back patio with a beer when my phone starts buzzing. I answer, and before I can even say hello, she goes, Daniel, what the hell is wrong with you? Great opening, very productive. I say, nice talking to you too, Alice. She starts telling me Karen called her crying. Tyler has a gambling addiction. Addiction is a psychological problem. He needs support. He needs compassion. I'm being cruel. I'm being selfish. I'm putting money ahead of family. I just sit there listening to this nonsense while looking at my grill. Finally, I ask, Alice, how much are you sending him? Silence. What? Tyler, how much money are you sending him? She goes, that's not the point. I say, no, I think that's exactly the point. You're very generous with my retirement account. How much is in yours? She gets offended. My finances are none of your business. I almost laughed. Exactly. Now you're getting it. She starts again about family and compassion, so I say, Alice, if you're that worried about Tyler, pay his debts yourself. You have a retirement account, right? No? Then shut your mouth. And I hung up. Was that polite? No. Did I sleep worse because of it? Also no. Then Karen's mother called. Then another sister. Then one of her friends from the gym, which really impressed me. Imagine having enough confidence to call another woman's husband and explain why he should be happy about losing $35,000. By 9 o'clock, I put my phone on silent and left it face down on the patio table. The message was the same from everybody. Tyler was struggling. Tyler was sick. Tyler had trauma from gambling addiction. And apparently, the treatment for that trauma was for me to work Saturdays until my knees gave out. Nobody suggested Tyler sell anything. Nobody suggested Tyler work 2 jobs. Nobody offered their own money. Funny how that works. Everybody loves helping when the help comes out of somebody else's pocket. Karen came outside around 10 and says, do you see how many people think you're wrong? I look at her. If 10 people tell me to jump off the garage roof, I'm still not jumping. She says, you always have to make a joke out of everything. I go, Karen, if I don't laugh right now, I'm going to start charging your relatives $600 a month just for calling me. 4 days passed, and I'll admit it, part of me still thought Tyler might surprise me. Maybe the kid would finally wake up, sell the BMW, get another job. Amazon delivery, warehouse, construction, restaurant, I didn't care. Thousands of guys his age work 2 jobs when they screw up financially. That's called being an adult. I wasn't asking him to dig coal with a spoon. I was asking him to pay back money used to cover his own gambling debts. So on the 4th morning, I'm drinking coffee, and I ask Karen, did Tyler sign? She doesn't look at me. No. Is he selling the BMW? She takes this long breath. Daniel, he needs that car for interviews. I put my coffee down. What interviews? He's looking. Where? I don't know. How many interviews does he have? Now she gets irritated. Why are you interrogating me? Because apparently, basic questions had become interrogation. Then she says something I still can't believe. Selling his car would humiliate him. He already feels terrible about himself. He needs some dignity right now. Dignity. Guys, I'm 54 years old. 6 months earlier, I was getting up at 4:30 on Saturday mornings, putting on work boots, and driving through the dark to lift boxes because groceries got expensive. Apparently that wasn't humiliating. But asking a 26-year-old man to downgrade from a BMW after gambling away somebody else's retirement money? Oh no, we couldn't damage the prince's dignity. I just nodded. Okay, Karen looked suspicious. Okay, what? Okay, I got my answer. The next morning I called a divorce attorney. His name was Mark. Gray-haired guy, striped suit. Office about 20 minutes away. I brought everything. Retirement statements, account records, dates, screenshots, Tyler's messages Karen had shown me. All of it. Mark sits there listening while turning a pen between his fingers. I finish and say, "So tell me how bad this is." He looks at me and goes, "For you, financially unpleasant. Legally, you've got a strong position." I lean back. "Explain." He taps the 401k paperwork. If these funds were accessed without your authorization and transferred for the benefit of a third party, we document every dollar. During division of marital property, we can argue that the $35,000 should be charged against Karen's share. I stare at him. So she thought she paid Tyler's debt with my money. Mark gives me a little smile. Potentially, she paid it with hers. Now that was the first good thing I'd heard all week. I walked out of his office, sat in the Explorer, and just laughed. Not because divorce was funny. 20 years of marriage going down the toilet is not funny. But the stupidity of the whole thing finally hit me. Karen had spent days telling me that $35,000 was just money. Fine. If it was just money, she shouldn't mind losing $35,000 from her share of the house. I drove home and called a moving company. When the guy on the phone asked what size truck I needed, I looked around my garage at my tools, my grill, all the stuff I'd collected over 20 years, and said, "Buddy, bring the big one." 2 days later, the moving truck pulled into our driveway at 8 in the morning. Big white thing. 2 guys in matching shirts, hand truck rolling down the ramp. Karen came outside in sweatpants with her coffee and just stood there looking at it. "What is this?" I'm in the garage putting my socket sets into plastic bins and I go, "Moving company." She says, "I can see that, Daniel. Why is there a moving company at our house?" I close the bin. "Because I'm moving." She just stares at me. See, up until that exact moment, Karen thought I was bluffing. Separation papers, bluff. Realtor, bluff. Lawyer, probably bluff. She was absolutely convinced that a 54-year-old guy who'd been married 20 years wasn't actually going anywhere. Where would I go? What would I do? Apparently, men over 50 are legally required to stay in the same house forever and just complain quietly in the garage. The mover started with my tools, then clothes, television, my leather couch from the basement. When they rolled my grill down the driveway, that's when Karen finally understood. Guys, never underestimate the symbolic importance of a man moving his grill. You can take shirts out of a closet and your wife thinks you're angry. You put the grill on a truck, she knows you've left. Karen walks over with her arms crossed and says, "You're really throwing away 20 years?" I say, "No, I'm taking my grill." She didn't appreciate that. "This isn't funny, Daniel." "I know." Then she starts telling me I'm going to regret this, that I'm emotional, that normal men my age don't just walk away from their families. I say, normal wives don't secretly take $35,000 out of their husband's retirement account either. But apparently we're trying new things this year. I'd rented a small 2-bedroom apartment near a park, nothing fancy. Kitchen, little balcony, decent living room, parking spot. The second bedroom was mostly for my tools and fishing stuff because I'm 54 and I don't need a home office. I need somewhere to put things Karen used to call junk. The first evening, I had boxes everywhere. Half my kitchen stuff was still wrapped in newspaper. I couldn't find the bottle opener, so I opened my beer with the edge of a screwdriver, like a civilized adult. The place smelled like fresh paint and cardboard. I unfolded the couch, put the TV on a cheap stand, found a baseball game, and sat down. And guys, the silence. I hadn't realized how tired I was until nobody was talking to me. No Karen walking around explaining Tyler's latest crisis. No phone buzzing because Tyler needed $100 until Friday. No conversation about somebody else's rent. No mysterious financial emergency. No relative from Ohio calling to explain my moral obligations. Nothing. Just baseball, cold beer, and some guy upstream dropping something on the floor every 20 minutes. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I fell asleep on that couch before the seventh inning, woke up around 2 in the morning, turned the TV off, went to bed, and slept until my alarm. Didn't wake up once. First time in probably 6 months. The divorce started moving pretty quickly after that. Our Naperville house went on the market. The realtor said the market was hot, and we should have a deal within a couple weeks if we priced it right. Karen hated that part. She kept saying, "This is our home." I said, "Yeah," and my 401k was my retirement. Eventually, she stopped having that conversation with me. My lawyer handled most of it anyway. I had no interest in spending every evening arguing about who ruined what. At some point, when you're 54, you realize there are only so many hours left in your life, and spending 3 of them arguing beside a kitchen island is a terrible investment. Karen ended up renting a modest 1-bedroom apartment, and here's the part that almost made Higgins choke on his beer when I told him. She got a full-time job in retail. Full-time, exactly what happens when somebody else's paycheck stops being available. She'd spent years working here and there, part-time stuff, taking care of the house, and I never had a problem with that. We could afford it. But now she had rent, utilities, groceries, and legal bills. So off to work she went. And Tyler? Oh, Tyler was fine. Guess where he moved? Yep, Mom's apartment. 26 years old, BMW still sitting outside. And now he was living with Karen again. She'd saved him from having to sell the car, saved him from dealing with the full consequences of his gambling debt, saved him from me asking for $600 a month. And now she got to enjoy the complete Tyler experience 24 hours a day. Apparently he was still looking for the right opportunity. That phrase made me laugh every time. I asked Higgins once what he thought Tyler's right opportunity was. Higgins said, probably a job where they pay him without making him come in. Hard to argue with that. Meanwhile, I started picking up less overtime. Not none. I still had that stupid 401k loan hanging over me while the legal side got sorted out. But I stopped volunteering for every Saturday. One Saturday morning, I woke up at 7 instead of 4:30, made coffee, walked down to the park, and just sat on a bench. That was it. Didn't accomplish anything, didn't make money, didn't solve anybody's problem. I watched some old guy throw a tennis ball for his golden retriever for about 20 minutes, and I remember thinking, why the hell haven't I been doing this? For years, every problem somehow became my problem. Roof needs repair, Daniel handles it. Car needs tires, Daniel handles it. Grocery bill goes up, Daniel takes overtime. Tyler needs money? Well, apparently Daniel handles that too, even when Daniel doesn't know about it. I'd gotten so used to carrying things that I stopped asking whether they were mine to carry. A few weeks after I moved out, Karen called me, not screaming this time. She sounded exhausted. "Daniel, Tyler still hasn't found anything stable." I'm standing on my balcony cleaning the little electric grill I'd bought for the apartment. I say, "Okay, that's all you have to say? What do you want me to say?" "I don't know. Maybe you could talk to him." I actually looked at the phone. "Karen, you spent $35,000 so I wouldn't have to." Silence. Then I said, "He's your responsibility now. Remember? Your own blood." She hung up. I stood there for a second, put the phone back in my pocket, and went right back to cleaning the grill. Because for the first time in 20 years, Somebody else's emergency wasn't automatically mine. The funny thing is, once I moved out, people started acting like I'd suddenly become some completely different guy. Higgins noticed it first. One Saturday, he comes over to the apartment around 4, carrying a six-pack of Pabst Blue Ribbon and a package of steaks. He looks around my little living room and goes, "Damn, Dan, this place is clean." I say, "Yeah, nobody lives here." He goes, "You live here." I say, "Exactly." He laughs, walks out onto the balcony and starts inspecting my little electric grill like he's from the fire department again. "This thing's pathetic." I say, "Building rules, no gas grills." He shakes his head. "Divorce took your house and your real grill." I point at him. "Careful. The grill is a sensitive subject." So we sit there drinking beer, cooking steaks on this glorified George Foreman machine. And for the first time in a long time, I'm not checking my phone every 10 minutes, waiting for another problem. The house sale was moving along too. We got an offer pretty quickly, almost exactly like the realtor said. Good offer, nothing crazy, but enough that after the mortgage and selling costs, there would be a decent amount left to divide. That's when Karen suddenly became very interested in the details of the $35,000. Funny how that works. When the money came out of my 401k, it was just money. When my attorney started talking about taking that same amount out of her share of the house, suddenly we needed spreadsheets, explanations, meetings, and a complete investigation by the United Nations. She calls me one afternoon and says, "My attorney says you're trying to take $35,000 from me." I'm standing in the grocery store holding a bag of hamburger buns. I go, "No, Karen, you already took $35,000. I'm trying to put it back where it came from." She says, "But that money went to Tyler." I know. "So why should it come out of my share?" I actually moved the phone away from my ear and looked at it for a second. Then I put it back. "Because you gave it to him." I was helping my son with my retirement. He was in danger. And you made that decision without me. She gets quiet. Then she says, "You really don't care what happens to us anymore, do you?" "Do." I put the hamburger buns in my cart and say, "Karen, I cared for 20 years. That's why this hurts. But caring about somebody doesn't mean giving them unlimited access to your paycheck." She didn't like that answer. She said something about me becoming cold and hung up. I bought my buns, some ground beef, mustard, and went home. 10 years ago, that phone call would have ruined my entire evening. Now I was mostly irritated because I forgot the pickles. A couple of days later, Tyler finally texted me. First time since the kitchen meeting. "Hey, Uncle Dan, can we talk?" I looked at it for maybe a minute. Then I wrote, "About the money?" He responds, "Yeah, kinda." Kinda. There's that Tyler language again. Nothing is ever direct. He comes over that evening. BMW pulls into the apartment parking lot, still looking perfectly healthy, by the way. Tyler comes upstairs wearing another expensive hoodie and sits on my couch. No AirPods this time. Progress. I hand him a bottle of water because I wasn't wasting good beer on this conversation. He says, "Mom's really stressed." I go, "I imagine." He rubs his hands together. "She says you're taking the 35 grand out of her house money." "Correct." "That's gonna hurt her pretty bad." I look at him. "Then pay it back." He immediately looks away. There it is. I say, "Tyler, you came here because you want me to stop taking the money from your mother's share. Fine. Give me another place to take it from. I don't have $35,000, then $600 a month. I told you I can't do that right now. Sell the BMW." He gives me that same irritated look. "Why are you obsessed with my car?" I laugh. "Because it's parked downstairs while you're sitting in my apartment telling me you have no money." He says, "It's not worth 35 grand. I know. Sell it anyway." He sits there quiet. Then he says, "I've been applying for stuff." Good. I might have something. Great. So maybe once I'm stable, I can start giving you something. How much? I don't know yet. When? I don't know. I lean back. Then nothing has changed. Tyler gets annoyed. What do you want me to do, man? I screwed up. I know that. And that was actually the first normal thing I'd heard him say. So I tell him, yeah, you screwed up. Everybody screws up. I've screwed up plenty. The difference between a screw up and a lifestyle is what you do the next morning. He looks at me. I point toward the parking lot. You still have the BMW. You're still living with your mother. She's working full time now because of your mess, and you're still asking everybody else to wait until you feel ready. He doesn't say anything. I go, you want me to respect you? Don't apologize to me. Do something. Tyler stood up maybe 5 minutes later. Before he left, he says, you really hate me now, huh? I shake my head. No, that would actually be easier. I don't hate you. I'm just done paying for you. He left without another word. A week later, Higgins and I were on my balcony again, meat sizzling on the little electric grill, Popsed blue ribbon getting cold in the fridge, baseball playing quietly through the open balcony door. Higgins takes a drink and goes, so let me get this straight. You worked 28 years, lost 35 grand, moved out of your house, and now you're getting divorced at 54. I turn the steak over. Pretty much. He shakes his head. Damn, Dan, you really stepped in it. I start laughing. Higgins looks at me. What? I say. You don't get it. Get what? I didn't get screwed. I got a discount. He stares at me like the beer has finally finished off my brain. And I tell him $35,000 is a lot of money. No question. But if that's what it cost me to finally get a 26-year-old freeloader off my neck, stop financing somebody else's bad decisions, and find out exactly what 20 years of marriage was worth when things got difficult? Hell, Higgins, that might be the best investment I ever made. He raises his beer and says, that is some divorced man mathematics right there. Still adds up. Because here's my male analysis after this whole mess. If your wife's son bets on sports, that's his problem. If your wife starts betting your retirement money on her son, it might be time to change teams. Now hand me another beer, because the meat's almost ready. And apparently life after 55 is going to be pretty damn good.